Hey everyone, I'm actually recording this and then I'm going to go live with it in case anyone wants to comment or jump up on panel. But I find I get really distracted by reading chat when I go live. So I'm just going to read out a little response to Hello Starlight's live today, where she used a couple of clips from my live last night and just explain a few things. And then yeah, like I said, I'll upload it, go live as a premiere, and we can discuss. Now, firstly, Hello Starlight, I need to say I do appreciate you not naming me in your live, despite one of your members in chat was busting to do so and pretty much did identify me. But I do appreciate you choosing to be tactful. It's a shame that that member didn't choose to be respectful of you and sort of observe your request. But you can't control what happens with your members, and I'm not blaming you for that either. But I do appreciate what you said. And I have to say, too, I even found you funny in your live, despite my appearance in it. My only claim to fame when I was a mod for J is for Justice was to ask for you to be taken off the cunt list. We've never had a problem with each other, and we both love whales, and more people should love them. But I do want to respond to some of the things that you said that I said in my live, and also a little, oh, shoot, what have I done? Sorry. I make notes. See, I go live and talk, no issues. I make notes and I get lost. I would like to respond to some of the things that you said. I need to explain them because within the context of my live, they certainly meant something very different. Also, a little disclaimer, I had absolutely no idea, Hello Starlight, that you had even spoken on the Kyle stuff before I did my live last night. I'd never seen you on any channels when he was on panel. I never saw you defending him before his alleged fall from grace when other YouTube creators were making fun of him. Nothing I said last night was aimed at you. Even my comment in my live last night about Diane's mods was general, not personal. But I'm sorry if it did strike a nerve with you because you sounded like you took it all very personally. But I also want to say that the clips that you played of me were taken out of context and they weren't aimed at you. They're comments that I was making as a YouTube observer, and they apply to a shitload of people, not one person in particular. But I also want to say, just for the record, for everyone, no, I don't want my bright wide-brimmed hat jizzed on, even virtually. Although at my ancient age, I'd be very surprised if anyone wanted to play with their doodle while I'm live. But I do love my hat and I'd love it to remain jizz-free, thank you. But that's got absolutely nothing to do with my live last night discussing the latest YouTube shenanigans. Now, firstly, I do want to say regarding doxing, that was my bad. I'm sorry for that. I did read something in chat and went off on a bit of a doxing rant without having done my homework. I said in my live last night I should have made some notes, and had I done so, I would have stuck to them. But as far as doxing goes, I think I'm going to stop using that word because I have no idea what it even means anymore. YouTube messes with the definitions of so many words, including doxing, and now it's become confusing as fuck. For example, on YouTube, from what I've seen, it's not okay to put people's real names from their Facebook pages out there, but then apparently it's okay to put Twitter handles. I mean, what's the difference? Especially if your Twitter handle is also your real name. Now, if Kyle had been putting his Twitter handle out there, he clearly wasn't doxed. But does that warrant everyone else under the sun putting it out there during a live where he's also being referred to as a predator? Can't you see in that situation the information has a very different likely outcome than when he was doing it and was accepted as part of this community? But context is very important, and I said a lot in my live last night that should make it clear why I said the things that you played on your live. In isolation, they sound whack, but in context, they don't. Firstly, the special needs poster child comment. When Kyle first appeared on the scene, my first thought was, this dude's a bit out there. But creators who had him on their panels or who did lives for him also donned wide brimmed hats, defended him in other chats, and seemed to know a lot more about him. So I figured he was accepted around YouTube. On the panels that I saw, Kyle never spoke. He occasionally waved or gave a thumbs up, and he would post comments in chat, often about wide brimmed hats. He seemed a little kooky, but harmless. Then Kyle started popping up on different channels, taking links, and creators reacted differently. Some of the reactions were highly inappropriate and judgmental, which was really bad. One creator in particular was downright hideous. But it's also pretty understandable that some creators who hadn't encountered Kyle might have thought it was a bit odd that this dude just takes a link, pops up, and then doesn't speak. I mean, it's random. And some of the reactions were to be expected. But like I said, some were way over the top and awful, and I don't condone those reactions at all. So then the people who did love Kyle and had been mucking around with him on other channels did make him a poster child for political correctness and started calling out the creators for making fun of him or anyone who may have possibly some sort of disability. And rightly so. They were all over the place saying he was harmless, and there were heaps of people in chats that were doing the same thing. But then the latest stuff happened. It suddenly came out that he had a thing for girls smoking cigars, which from my understanding he admitted is a fetish of his. And he also had the wide brimmed hat stuff, which apparently he has said is not a fetish. Now, look, to be honest, whether both are fetishes or not, it doesn't change how I feel about what has happened since then. Suddenly, that same crowd that had defended their poster child were publicly outing him and calling him a predator. They flipped on a dime. And I'm not saying everyone. This has been an interesting exercise to observe in that some people have still stood by him and others chose not to, flipped on a dime and started labelling him a predator. And that is what I was talking about. I talked about why they couldn't have discussed it behind the scenes with each other and simply asked him to stop or block him. Instead, many chose to publicly shame him, and it was brutal. Don't go live and call someone a predator. Every single person sitting at home having a wank right now isn't a predator. And to be honest, I prefer people who sit at home and have a wank than people who do it out in public, just saying. So why did I comment on this issue anyway? I've been observing stuff on YouTube since 2018 and I've rarely commented on any specific creators, but I have talked a lot on my channel about how weird YouTube is and the psychology of all of us who play on here. I've commented a lot about how fickle friendships are on YouTube. I've talked about how one thing can make people turn from being proud supporters to campaigning critics in the blink of an eye. And I'm sorry, but I think it's odd. I've also talked a lot about what I call the Groundhog Days of our YouTube lives and how it's the same pattern over and over, just with different characters. I also talked about another pattern on YouTube, and that's the one of selective outrage. One fall from grace doesn't seem to equate to another on YouTube, and I want to know, why is that? How is Diane not someone everyone on YouTube should have been warned about? Like, since that seems to be the justification for all of this Kyle stuff, how is it that Kyle is outed as a predator, but many people tried to sweep the Diane stuff under the carpet and make out that it was no big deal? And I'm sorry, but there has been a lot of deflection. How is it that there wasn't even a little bit of, hey, Diane, this is kind of fucked up comment from one of her supporters? How is that so? Like, yes, bad people in the YouTube community should be outed, but all of them, every single one of them. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about selective outrage. It's another aspect of YouTube that I find very odd. I do also want to talk about this thing on YouTube that's referred to by many people as sides. Use inverted commas there. There's sides in terms of people being very loyal to one camp and then very vocal about their dislike of another. Not everyone in the sides agrees with everything that goes on 100% of the time. But I'm talking about the people who are very vocal and critical about someone on the other side and then silent when someone on their side does something reprehensible. Like I also said in my live, I think people need to stop talking about sides and just try to exist as a community like in the real world. Like in the real world, we're all diverse, we all have different opinions, where in the real world, human beings agree to disagree on certain things every single day, where people don't blindly follow someone they like and never call out their bullshit, where people don't expose someone and make them a target by labeling them with a word like predator and have the masses cheering on, but then stay silent when someone they like has done something dodgy. That's how the real world works. But this shit happens over YouTube every single day, and it happens on all sides. And I don't care about sides. In fact, it's time people stop taking sides and make their own independent opinions, start using their own minds, and speak up about all the things they don't like, whether it's happening on YouTube and it's someone they like or someone they don't. God, these notes are terrible. I'm so sorry. I'm left-handed. I can't even read my own handwriting. What I'm trying to say, it's time that people call out all shitty behaviour, whether it's someone you like or someone you don't. And if it is someone you like, you don't have to be a bitch about it to them. Just call out their shitty behaviour. You don't have to stop being friends the second you disagree about something they did. Like, if we all gave up our friendships in our real lives over one single disagreement, we'd have no friends left. I've had plenty of good friends call out shit that I've said and done throughout my life, and I've actually appreciated it. I've learned from it, and part of living is improving as a person. But on YouTube, calling out people you like seems to be the worst thing you could possibly do. I was simply asking people to use their minds and look at situations and form their own individual opinions instead of following a pack. And once again, I want to reiterate, not everyone does that. But why can't we express our opinions, even if they differ from people we like on YouTube, without fear of ending up with a target on our backs and having an angry mob coming after us? To me, YouTube channels are a little bit like restaurants. And YouTube's this big city we live in, filled with restaurants. Now, we're not all going to eat at the same restaurant. Some of us are going to love some of them and not like others so much. But we're all still living in the same city, and despite our restaurant preferences, we're not going to start hating our neighbours and publicly humiliating them simply because they eat where we choose not to. The fact that I might have a view that some channels are expressing at the moment doesn't mean I won't disagree with other things they have to say. I've never seen myself on any side. I simply love and follow creators who are entertaining and who challenge my thinking process. And the fact is, most of the creators I find entertaining are all on feuding sides right now. I've got to say too, though, they keep jumping from side to side repeatedly. I actually don't have a clue who's on what team now, but I don't give a shit. If I still find them interesting, I'm still going to listen to them. The point I was really trying to make last night is, what is it with YouTube? Why is there so much deflecting from some issues and then never-ending lives about another? From the clips that you played on your channel, someone in your chat described me as vile and others said similar things. So now to some from those little clips, I'm vile. I know that I'm not vile. I know I'm a good person. I know I've got plenty of flaws, but being vile isn't one of them. I know I do more for human rights in my real life than most people on YouTube will ever come close to doing. But mud sticks, and now I'm vile. Great. I am, in all reality, just another sub on YouTube who observes things and is watching communities tear each other apart and who finally said something about it. I know I'm not the only person who's started to move away from the communities we initially found ourselves in because it's simply painful to watch. I'm speaking out because I have been affected watching this happening, just like every other sub out there who's found this all confusing. And after this live, I'm happy to switch to new channels and never come back. It wouldn't bother me at all. I spoke up on the Kyle issue, not because I condone anyone being a creep on YouTube, if indeed he even has been. Hello Starlight, if you did a PSA about him and the things you've learned and you've got proof of that, well, I commend you. Of course our communities need to be kept safe. But people loving someone 1 minute, defending him the next, and then throwing him under the bus a minute later, while at the same time turning a blind eye to other stuff that's happened on YouTube, that is what bothers me. On YouTube, people are quickly labelled with words like racist, liar, and predator, and all of those words have a lot of power. But more importantly, throwing them out there in everyday conversation where they don't really apply actually takes away from the severity and importance when those words do apply. It waters down the very reason they exist in our language. It also waters down the legitimate experiences of people who are true victims of racists, liars, and predators. And why are only some called out and labelled so cruelly and not others? Why are only some villains while others are left with their halos intact? I spoke up on the Kyle issue because I don't like hypocrisy, double standards, and selective outrage. I spoke up on the issue because I've questioned how fickle friendships on YouTube are for a long time, and Kyle is just another example of a person who 1 minute was considered harmless, but the next minute is a villain. I spoke up because I want true victims of racism, liars, scammers, thieves, bullies, predators, just to name a few, to be seen as such and not to have their experiences watered down by people throwing those words around like confetti at a wedding. Words have power to not only hurt people, but also to diminish the experiences of actual victims, and it's fucked up. I spoke up because I stand with anyone who's lost friends on YouTube in the blink of an eye for doing or saying something people didn't like and suddenly their name is mud. I spoke up because I don't like that it's so easy to call someone a predator on the one hand, but not be able to call out someone you like when they do something shitty. I spoke up because I stand with any subs who don't have a way to defend themselves when they're accused of anything horrible and it's taken to the extreme. I spoke up because I stand with anyone who just wants to have fun on YouTube without fear of being targeted, exposed, labelled, picked on, thrown under the bus, harassed or bullied. I spoke up because I stand with anyone who has observed behaviour on YouTube and is speaking out about it in the hope that this stuff will stop before someone seriously gets hurt. And I spoke up because I stand with anyone who sees goodness and great potential on YouTube to share messages of positivity, hope, support, care, and even love in our big, wide, diverse, and sometimes batshit crazy YouTube community. Okay, I've said my bit, and now I'm moving to Mongolia. Stay groovy, everyone.